Thank you, everybody, for tuning into the Outlaw podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, this is our first video podcast. And if you're listening on Spotify, obviously you can't see us.
Anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys. Especially if you're a new listener, please like, subscribe, comment what you think of the podcast. You know, we're kind of new at this, so if we could use probably a bunch of pointers. But if you're just coming at us with hate mail, sorry, we're just gonna kind of laugh at you.
Yeah,
that's kind of how we are. But
anyway, well, how was your Thanksgiving, man?
Man, I was freaking amazing. About 10 pounds fatter, but you know, 3 meals on Thanksgiving plus all the leftovers. Yeah, I'm kind of struggling right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was gonna work out today, and I don't know what happened. It just never happened.
My run this morning was no fun. I'm gonna say that much right now.
Well, that probably didn't help. It was pretty cold this morning.
It was pretty bad, but it wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't as bad as like 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, it was terrible.
Yeah,
I couldn't hardly breathe. Felt like I was getting stabbed in the chest with icicles.
Yeah. I don't know why, but I'm like super sensitive to that. So, but
I ain't as bad as I used to be.
I think since I quit smoking, it's been a lot easier to not have that feeling, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, either way, tomorrow's a 12-miler, so 12-mile ruck. So hopefully, it ain't gonna be that bad. But it's gonna
we'll see.
It's right gonna suck. It's first one in like a week and a half.
Yeah,
12-miler at least. I've done a couple 5 and 6 milers, but no, 12-miler is gonna suck tomorrow.
Okay. So anyway, you want to tell the audience what we're going to be talking about today?
Yeah. We're topic today is pretty much going to be on cancel culture and the woke. I'm going to call it the woke wave that's kind of hit the past 20 years of America's culture and history. You know, so let's see. It's just
this is going back to the first episode.
It's
focusing on the army as the woke.
This new woke army that we all, love and hate.
Yeah.
Mainly just hate. We despise and wish it just go back to the old days. But you know what? That's time for you. It passes and blah blah blah. But anywho, we can point out how terrible woke culture can be.
Yeah.
And how it is pretty detrimental to about everything that goes on with not just, our military lives, but also, civilians in today's time that are kind of like us, that are, they're not like, uber rightists that people try to paint them as.
They're
not. Yeah, and they're not the uber leftist either. They're just the people that want to go about their daily lives and live a normal life, without someone telling them, making them feel either like a piece of crap for something that they either didn't do or that something that their ancestors did 200 years ago.
Yeah.
That has no bearing on their life today. I mean, if we took the same mentality that woke culture and cancel culture takes, then all of us would be pretty much shunned. There's no one out there. I don't care where you come from, that one of your ancestors didn't do something terrible. Sorry, we've been here thousands, millions, however many years that anyone wants to think we've been here. We've been here on documented history, thousands of years.
Time. Yeah.
So, at least somewhere in those thousands of years, someone's ancestor has done something pretty bad.
Someone in your bloodline has done some terrible stuff.
So, but anyways, on the topic of woke culture and pretty much its uprising, where did everyone's kind of like wondering, how did it go from, 20 years ago, the 9/11 and the 9/12 mentality of everyone coming together and banding together to now we're a nation divided, essentially. Yeah. Like, you either have people on one side of the fence or the other side, and there's not really any more in between. Like, there used to be a lot of this in between, but either the either the far rightists have pushed some people their way or the far leftists have pushed people their way. And this middle ground that we all could see has kind of, went to nothing. So it's kind of just,
there's no middle, like there is middle ground, but it's so overshadowed by, well, yeah. I think it's overshadowed by the far left and the far right.
Absolutely. So, and the thing is both sides are pointing at each other, saying blame the other one. And in reality, it's just this culture that we're in now, this woke / cancel culture. If you're on either side wanting to cancel anybody, if you live in the United States of America, I'm sorry, but that's not not lawful, for one.
Yeah.
Don't really matter really what they say partially.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to be like, you can go out here and threaten people. I mean, obviously you can't. But if they're out here voicing an opinion that they feel, it just because you don't agree with their opinion doesn't mean that you can go cancel them for it. It's just, I mean, that's common sense, especially if you've lived in America for the past 200 years. We have the First Amendment for a reason, but
I really think, honestly, I think it started when they took the Pledge of Allegiance out of schools.
Well, yeah.
When that became like when there was like that big push.
I remember
that and like the moment of silence out of schools. That's when it really.
Well, I remember when I went to
shifted.
Elementary school and middle school, and I remember standing for the Pledge of Allegiance in the moment of silence. Yeah. And I mean, no one had a problem with it.
Yeah.
No one did. I'm sorry. Like, there was not a single kid in there that was like, "Oh, I feel like this is offending me."
Mm-hmm.
It's just because it's not. We're standing as a people together. It teaches you patriotism, for one. Like that's all that teaches you. And the moment of silence teaches you reverence for the ones who have died, to give you the freedom to go to school.
Not only that, but it gives for some religions and some cultures, praying at the beginning of the day and praying at the end of the day is that's just normal. That's a socially accepted thing.
That they do.
Culture.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think it was like 2010-ish, somewhere in there, 2008 to 2012, somewhere in there, where they took the Pledge of Allegiance and the moment of silence. They pretty much told schools they didn't have to do that because it was no longer a requirement.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, when you tell a teacher that they don't waste your time on this because you don't have to do it, they're obviously not going to do it unless they're someone who really, I'm not going to say cares. Not all teachers care, but when it comes to especially like the moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance, and especially from educators that went to, I'm not going to name any schools, but I'm going to say some big name popular schools.
Yeah. We'll just say like the big universities.
Yeah, big universities that learned really learned another history than they were really teaching. But it used to be, I don't know. It's so convoluted how they taught history in college. When I went to college, I remember my first semester when I went to community college. I mean, community college shouldn't, be all that political.
It should be pretty just basic
generic,
level.
Facts. Just spit me the facts, give me the test, and be done. But even in there, they were trying to force feed a view of America down your throat. That
they're trying to force their narrative.
Exactly. They were forcing their narrative and not facts. Yeah. Because they were taking some facts and then convoluting them with non-facts and then trying to put them together. And it was kind of like me being a history geek and the history nerd I was going for to be a history teacher was what I was actually going to college for. And so whenever I went through 3 semesters, and on my 3rd semester, I took a political science class because I had to.
Yeah.
And that class really said, your college days are pretty much done because you're going to fight an uphill battle just because of your views.
Yeah.
And
I mean, my sister, she goes to Appalachian State, and I've heard the stories of like it being super, super like cancel culture and far left, and the whole like a BLM movement and just all that super far left narrative is pushed super heavily up there by not only the students but the faculty as well.
Well, and college campuses used to be a place where, you could just go to learn something.
Yeah.
Like if you were doing a particular, I'm not going to say trade because that's a trade school, but like a particular study into, I can't remember. If you're getting your diploma in like a Bachelor of Science.
Yeah.
Let's say you're getting a Bachelor of Science in let's just say psychology. Bachelor of Science in Psychology. All right. If you're being taught that, you should just be being taught, the psychological mind and how,
thing.
That one specific thing and going towards it, not opinionated based rhetoric that is harming to literally our entire way of life.
Yeah, and you're pushing it on a very impressionable age.
Yeah, I mean, when you're 18, 19, you have no idea how the real world works anyways.
Yeah.
So, like, I remember being 18, 19, that's when I went to college. As soon as I got out of basic training, I had a little bit of time to go. I had a semester that I could go take. And so I went and took the semester. And I remember being in a class with a dude that was like 26. He was trying to get his start into schooling, into getting a degree. And he was literally looking around the class and he was like the old man in the whole class.
But even he's going to have a totally different
and he was the most, like I said, the first semester I took that American history class, he was in that class.
Yeah.
And he was probably the most, I'm not going to say volatile, but he would literally be like, that's not true. He'd straight up say it. He didn't care. He said, that's not true. And then he would pull up facts on his phone and be like, that's actually what happened. Because we covered the very politically charged, I'll say, from Christopher Columbus all the way to the Civil War.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The
woke cancel culture. We'll just go ahead and put it out there. The far left, they love to bring in that section of history from basically when Christopher Columbus landed in South America or Central America really to we'll say 1865. They love to sit there and
point out everything that was flawed,
every fault
in our
entire
system.
But you're talking about a country, even in the 1800s, from let's say 1781, I think is when the revolution ended. So you're talking 1781 to 1865. You're talking about less than 100 years of time, like less than 100 years of development.
History. And development.
And they say like, oh, that's why America was so bad. But you're talking about a country that was still in its infancy.
And not to mention,
being compared to countries that have been around since medieval times, that have had their, and even then during that time period, they were not perfect.
Well,
like England has been a terrible country. Even today.
That's a good point to prove, because at our founding, when they point out all of these, like slavery's a big one too. I hate to bring it up, but I mean that's their number one go-to.
Yeah, and we'll go ahead and put this. We'll put it out there. Slavery obviously is fucking bad.
Obviously,
it's a terrible thing, and it's still going on today. And people don't want to admit that fact. They don't want to look at it, but slavery is still very much a thing in continents of Africa, parts of Asia, the Middle East, and even in Eastern Europe.
And even if it goes under the name indentured servitude, or heck, even in America, you have escorts.
Yeah,
in certain.
Honestly, like that.
Prostitution.
You really think basically a form of slavery?
human trafficking
It's
is one of
slavery
the
with extra steps.
human trafficking is one of the most it's you make more money in it than freaking drugs. It's one of the highest grossing
And typically,
illegal
human
activities, black
trafficking,
market activities.
like sex trafficking and human trafficking, kind of go hand in hand with drugs. Cartel has their hands in everything.
Everything. But
So,
anyways, back to like during 1781 all the way to 1799 when George Washington got out of office. In that time period when everything was being developed, we went through we were under the Articles of Confederation.
yep.
And the
And
Constitution.
there was an uprising then, and in between that time, to get rid of the Articles of Confederation.
Yep, because it did not give. It literally didn't give any power to anybody, so nothing was being done. So no one. We couldn't raise an army. We couldn't defend ourselves. We couldn't. I mean, the reason we fought the revolution was because of we're going to say government overreach and taxes.
Yep.
That's what I'll state, because they were taxing people who had no political representation.
Yep.
To say, hey, don't to at least give the people a chance to have a dog in the fight.
Yep.
So that's why we went to the war. That's why we went to war with Britain twice, because Britain came back in 1812 and tried to take us back.
It didn't work out all that well for them. But
it didn't work out too well for them.
They might have burned down the White House when they kicked them out again.
But the whole thing of it is during that time period, if you even look around the world, slavery was the thing everywhere.
Yeah.
There was not a single country out there that didn't have it. We were actually one of the first ones to come around and abolish it.
Yeah.
In the 1864 was when he came out with the Emancipation Proclamation.
I think so. Something
I think it was 64. But anywho, we were the first ones to actually do it, or not the first, one of the first ones. And when
1863, January 1st, 1863.
63. My bad.
So in the third,
my history's a little off.
Yeah, in the third year, or approaching the third year of the war, the Civil War, is when the Emancipation Proclamation was.
I couldn't remember. I know it was from 60 to 60, or 61 to 63, or 64, 64-ish.
For the Civil War, 65. That's when the war ended.
Thought it ended. Yeah, you're right. That's right. Sorry. Man, my history is way off today. My brain ain't working like it should. But you could point a finger at any country you wanted and say that they were terrible.
Yeah, you can look at any country throughout history.
Rather than look at, the good that America has done, the leftists and the woke culture just look at the bad on everything that America's ever done. Not the good, not, defeating of Nazi Germany, World War II, where we liberated hundreds of thousands of people from labor camps.
Millions.
Well, we liberated
literally liberated the entirety of Western Europe.
Yeah. And no, that's not there. They don't want to talk about it, much less acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And really, if you look back at how the woke culture really started its rise to power, you go back to about the 60s, the 1960s. During the Vietnam War, right? As soon as the Vietnam War started, you had the same age of free love and the hippies. And so you had a lot of anti-war protests and a bunch of people that were wooed by big words, is what I'll say.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And big ideas.
Yeah.
But if you look at where their ideas were stemming from, like the Book of Marx is a big one. Yeah. Karl Marx. And what is that? Marx Manifesto? I can't remember. It's the Communist Manifesto. It's literally what it is. And you look at the ideas in it, and you literally put them side by side to a lot of the big advocate groups that were, a part of the free love movement of the 60s and 70s. That's they literally take a lot of their a lot of their ideas from that book, and they're implementing them into the way they're running their operations. And you can see that even in today's time of any real far left activist, which is exactly why we went to Vietnam in the first place, was to push back against communists.
Yeah,
it's literally why
I guess a good representation of the '60s. We'll call it the '60s woke movement or the hippie movement. As to how far it went was you had the actress Jane Fonda. I can't remember the year, but she went up to North Vietnam, and there's pictures of her, hanging out with North Vietnamese soldiers, and playing around with anti-aircraft guns and going to SAM sites. And I'm not entirely sure, and I might very much be wrong on this, but I want to say that she even visited some of the POW camps in North Vietnam.
Well, she did visit the Hanoi Hotel or Hilton. Yeah, that's what I mean. Hanoi
so
Hilton.
I mean, like, could you imagine? Well, let's put this into perspective, right? Could you imagine if, we'll take a famous female actress, like Scarlett Johansson. Scarlett Johansson, we'll say 2012, went to Afghanistan and hung out with the Taliban. And it was broadcast worldwide. Could you imagine the outrage?
Oh yeah, I mean,
but I guarantee because that was
to an extent, that's the thing.
Culture.
That's the thing, though, to an extent, because even in 2012, there was a lot of. It's not as bad as it is now, but there was a lot of, where we, as an American people, didn't look at the Taliban as our enemies by then because we'd been in the war for 10 years.
Yeah.
So if she'd done that in 2012, she probably wouldn't have got as much backlash, but she probably wouldn't have got as much coverage either. Yeah. Unless she went over there with, producers and such and tried making a thing of it, which that would be completely anti-American. And, well, she'd be a Jane Fonda of today.
That was at the time of, the woke culture rising. So who knows? She could have completely got away with it, but I guarantee if somebody did that in the 40s, went over to hung out with Nazi Germany while Americans were fighting, that they would have probably been, charged with treason and probably executed, because that's just the way America was back then.
Oh, America was a lot harsher.
Honestly, didn't give a fuck.
All that is, it's treason. If you really want to know the word to it, it's treasonous, because you're literally going to the enemies of your country, and we were in a war with Vietnam, and you're going to the enemy side and making them
basically trying to humanize them.
Morale boosting them.
That's one thing that we're taught from day one is don't humanize the enemy, because once you humanize who you're fighting, or ultimately trying to kill,
that's where that's where you start hesitating, and once you start hesitating, then guess what? You're dead, because they're not going to hesitate. Yeah. That's just how they're trained.
And that's one thing. You look at America's big enemies now. Russia, Iran, and China. Those three countries, which we'll say, and we'll throw North Korea in there, so we'll do the top four.
Yeah, top four.
Are they do not have the same we'll see this the woke cancel culture there. All their people are pretty much from the time that they're born to we'll say the average 25-year-old, because we're both in our 20s. We'll say the average 20-year-old in China right now versus the average 20-year-old in America are polar opposites. The average 20-year-old in America wouldn't kill the same person in China, but that same person in China would probably kill the American, if you want to put them toe to toe or head to head.
Well, that's
they don't give a fuck if you're cisgender or not cisgender, but transgender, or if you have anxiety.
Oh, they don't care if you're lesbian, gay, transgender, have anxiety, have PTS. They don't care. You can hit any.
You can hit any of the big hot
button issues. They don't care. Matter of fact, they're going to use it against you.
Yeah,
that's just how they. That's how their psyops works. Like, if they find a weakness, a crack in any of your culture,
they're going to exploit.
Which is what they're going to exploit it. That's just how they do. Which, I mean, if it isn't obvious, they have been exploiting it, and we are like, whenever you see, why do you think we're not? When we first started seeing German aggression in the 30s, we had the same mentality.
Anything.
We had the same mentality that we have not now with Russia.
Yeah,
they'll stop as soon as they get their little chunk of the pie.
Yep.
You know, they might not take all of Ukraine. They can take the last bit. But if you look,
they can take the Donbass region.
Yeah, but if you look back in 2014 when they took Crimea, we thought the same thing then. Right?
And we did
they're just going to take Crimea. No, nothing. So all you see with that is literally history repeating itself. So if you don't see the same thing with how American culture is going to be, American culture shifts. It's always been a shifting wave.
But it's been pretty much on the same incline for the past almost 10 years. It's been on the same downward. I mean, if you look at a graph, we were here, and then it's just going steadily down.
Well, you take an America that's weak and that is hurting after 9/11. You give them a common enemy to fight for in Afghanistan, but the war goes too long. Afghanistan, Iraq, both wars go way too long. 20 by 2010 it was 7, 8 years.
Yeah, because we invaded Iraq in 2003, and I think we pulled out in.
And then we start seeing
12,
the same
13,
thing. 12
and
13.
we went right back.
ISIS, gotta love them.
So that's a whole.
Gotta love them.
The writing was on the wall because ISIS. If you really want to look at it, ISIS has been around since 2005 with the Islamic State. What's his name? I can see his fucking face.
Which one?
Zarqawi.
Oh yeah, Zarqawi.
He was the dude who started it all, and then obviously terrorist groups, like once you kill one, there's 15.
Someone's going to take their place.
So, and it just.
There's about 15 to 20 in line to take each other's place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they do have a clear line of succession. We just don't know it because we're always hunting the top big and bad at the time.
Yeah.
So we always play catch up. That's just how that goes. Anywho, but yeah, if you look at. And we're harping big on woke culture and trying to point it out, but literally how we're going to point it out is we're going to use its byproduct. If it uses cancel culture, it is wokeism. If it is wokeism, it's not that good. It uses cancel culture because in every aspect, from comedy to actors to news media. I mean, we could go down the line of any type of outlet that we get entertainment from, news from, any type of factual information from. If it has not towed a woke line in the past 10 years, it's not there no more. It's either not there or they're fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are mired in legal battles.
Yep. Well, it's funny. I wouldn't even say for the cancel culture and the woke culture. I wouldn't even say it's a byproduct of the war, because you look at America,
it's not a byproduct of the war, but the war definitely weakened America's culture. Is what I'm going to say.
But if you look at America's culture, we'll say after World War II, most people who went into the entertainment industry that weren't there prior to, same with sports, news, anything like that. A lot of them, we'll say the males. A lot of the men had fought during World War II, or they'd served in some capacity during the war, and then even Korea, that 1946. We'll say that 1946 and 1965 was you look back at it, was a great time for America. Technological advancement.
It was a golden age. Yeah, it was a golden age of sorts, but it was, but. You ever heard of the?
And in that time, we still fought another war, the Korean War, and a lot of people forget about it. And that was the first. It was like part of that whole. It was.
It was one of the first communist. It was our first anti-communist war. It was between that one, Vietnam, and we're even going to throw in the Bay of Pigs.
Yeah.
Just because that was in a whole different area, but we kind of
It was still kind of part of that whole. Which if you look at the CIA during the 50s and 60s, and even in the 70s, was a fucking crazy time. That's just. Bay of Pigs.
Yeah, he took a lot of power during that time. I'm going to say that much.
Yeah.
Yeah, he took a lot of advancements.
Yeah. But they did it for good. Internationally, they did it for good.
In some aspects, yes. But at the same time, I'm also the same guy that looks at, I understand that, I don't know how to word this one. I understand that things have to be done during war.
Yeah.
I'm 100% for it. Trust me. When you have to win a war, you have to win a war.
Yeah.
All right. Because your way of life has to be preserved. But at the same time, there are lines that are drawn that you can't cross.
Yeah. With that being said, we don't cross those lines, but typically in history, the enemy does. They cross the line. And it's extremely hard to fight when you have the rules of war or rules of engagement and the enemy doesn't follow.
Well, that's Afghanistan and Iraq for you. Why do you think we spent so long there?
Vietnam, Nazi Germany, North Korea, China.
Yeah, Vietnam with the VC.
Yeah,
the VC was their guerrilla group that would go out and do hit and run bombings, and that was really our first foray into actual guerrilla warfare tactics on a major scale, at least. There was guerrilla warfare in World War II, but it wasn't on a major scale.
Yeah.
So,
and it wasn't as volatile, I would say.
No, they weren't using suicide bombers to just clack off a suicide vest in the middle of women and children all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And using the women and children.
The Middle Eastern terrorists weren't the first ones to do it. They just took what they learned throughout history. Enemy looks at history and hey, this really worked, so let's try this. And they do it with success.
Afghanistan hasn't lost a war in over 2,000 years.
Yeah. Alexander the Great tried to conquer him. He couldn't do it. The Mongols tried it. They couldn't do it. The British Empire tried it. They couldn't do it. And so we tried it, and we obviously...
Well, we didn't even learn from the Russians in the 80s.
And the Russians, if you look back at they're like the Russo-Afghan War, the Russians were fucking brutal.
They used the most brutal tactics to do it.
They poisoned water sources, and they still could not break the back of the Mujahideen. And we did it with, like a soft touch in comparison with a soft touch.
Oh, we did it definitely with a soft touch because we had no choice. The eyes of the world were on us.
Yeah.
Russians.
It was a multinational. You're talking about a coalition force of over 20 nations. So
in one place. So all eyes were on you.
Mm-hmm.
So soft touches was all you had, which kind of ticked us off, by the way. No comment on that, though. Because sometimes
we're like way off topic here.
Yeah. Anyways, back to the entire point that I was making was that if you ever look at, we're going to use Vietnam and the Afghanistan war. If you look at those times, they literally have bred the same thing. They have bred an uprising of counterculture. In the 60s, it was counterculture, but in today's world, it is now the culture.
Yeah,
and the counterculture is now literally
us.
How we used to be. Yeah, we're the counterculture.
Yeah.
That's how it is. Just normal people out there any of y'all normal people out there trying to live your lives.
I guarantee about 75% of the internet would flip their lid because I've got body armor and a rifle and a gun right there.
I got body armor, a flick, my helmet, a bunch of other crap on that side, rug, 3 weapons, a bunch of other stuff on this side. So,
that's a great way to get canceled.
Well, I don't
it's not even in view, but we're sitting there talking about it
in the view. So
yeah,
I'm not showing guns. So no one try to take this off YouTube because I didn't state I was going to have guns on here beforehand.
Yeah.
I'm not bringing guns on here.
Yeah.
But anywho.
That comes at
What
later time.
Yeah, later time. Definitely a later time. But no, if you look at you see the uprising in the 60s, and that was the counterculture. But during the Afghanistan war, they fermented their hold and they became the culture.
Mm-hmm.
And now the everyday normal American out here that grew up in the regular culture, where it's okay to be an American, where it's okay to, be either patriotic or have respect and semblance to our way of life. All right. Those people are now living in this counterculture world, or this wokeism world, and they're trying to either adapt to it, but most everyone is just trying to be quiet about it. No one wants to address the elephant in the room because they're so afraid to.
Yeah, you say one wrong thing and you've gone viral, and it seems like the entire world hates you.
And that may be, but if you really look at who's screaming, it's normally like just about 10% of people.
Yeah,
it's the 10% of people who are on the far left that
have access.
That have access. That's all they do.
You get this with Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, and you put it out you're fucking in there with your blue hair. And another thing with the whole counterculture, or what we consider counterculture, which is now the widely accepted culture, along with the woke and cancel culture and everything, is this wide acceptance of obesity. The whole you're I think one of the best men. We'll take men for instance. Now the thing is men should be they shouldn't work out. We should be submissive to females. We should
feminine.
Be dominant. Yeah, we should be feminine, right?
Yeah, they want you to be feminine.
Why
do you want your fighting men to be feminine?
Yeah.
Why? Name
not even fighting men. I'm just the average.
Well, I was throwing back to the woke culture in the military. The first episode, when you want a fighting force, and I hate to say, I don't mean the word. You want them to be weaker people, is what I'm trying to say. You're wanting them to not be trained as well. You're not giving them the tools to succeed, and you're not instilling in them the discipline that we talked about in the last episode to want to get up, go on a run, go work out, go to the gym, be in shape, be able to do your job.
Yeah.
And you're literally and the amazing thing is this new PT test. I love it and I hate it.
Yeah.
Because I love it on the fact that there's more events.
Yeah.
But it is also easier to pass. That is what I don't like about it. Because if we went with the ACFT.1, the original one that they came out with.
Yeah, when you saw where it was MOS based.
Where it was MOS based and it was literally across the board the same. There was no brackets for anything.
It was just are you in a heavy, is your job a heavy, quote unquote job? Is it intermediate, or is it, I think it was light?
Light. Because
I do, I like that because, an infantry dude or somebody in a combat arms job should be held to a very different standard than somebody who is in some type of admin role.
And it also cleans it up.
My 42 Alpha doesn't need to be over there. Would it be cool? Yeah. But, the dude who processes my pay, there's no reason why he should be deadlifting, 340 pounds.
Which, if he wants to do
15 minutes 2 miles.
If he wants to do it,
that's great.
That's great. But if it doesn't have to be required. But at the same time, we have to have, when you're in a combat arms unit, you have to be reliable. That's your number one. That's your number one job, reliability, to do your job.
Yeah.
So if I give you an 80-pound ruck and say, hey, we got to go on a patrol and we're going 12 miles. We're going on a 12-mile patrol right now.
Yeah.
And let's say you're not in shape. Guess what? You're not going to keep up.
By mile 2.
Yeah, by mile 2, you're going to be sucking wind.
And that's even with us. We're a mounted unit.
But the thing is our PT standards should be the same as anyone who's unmounted because we're still combat arms.
Say for whatever reason, our mode of transportation that's, six
Failed.
wheels. Yeah, if something happened, it got, disabled, whatever the case may be, like we still should be able to pack up everything in that truck that is sensitive or bullet in place, grab our gear, and be able to walk out.
Yep. But for some odd reason, woke culture does not want fighting people.
Yeah.
They don't. They just don't. And it's really sad because they think we live in a world of peace. But if you are noticing how the world is going, you should be able to see the writing on the wall that says, we're not going to be in peace for much longer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have lived in a peaceful time. Your closest thing to war was Afghanistan, which was 2,000 to 3,000 miles away, and you sent a volunteer army to fight it.
Yeah.
Right? So you didn't have any dog in the fight for most of you. None of you did, unless you served or unless you had an immediate family member, i.e., brother, sister, husband.
Yeah, I don't really give a shit about your fucking
husband, daughter, wife. If
that wasn't directly in your face every day.
No, not like a war on your own front would be. That'd be a whole different. That's a whole different world. And if you don't train to keep your men and women in fighting shape, and you're expecting the world to stay peaceful, you are setting yourself up for failure from day one, because the enemy doesn't care, whichever enemy it could be. I don't care. I don't care if it is some third world country in, I don't know, we'll say.
Take Somalia, for instance.
We'll take Somalia. Yeah.
Yeah, because Somalia is a super kinetic place right now. As far as
if they've been training for 10, 20 years, they've been training 10, 20 years. They've been training hard. They've been training to fight. They've been training to learn your tactics and learn how you are. Trust me, they're going to put up a really good fight. They might not have the numbers.
Look at Operation Gothic Circuit.
Yep.
You're talking about at the time some of the best, one of the best fighting forces on the planet, Rage Battalion and Delta, and they gave them a run for their money.
All because they knew how we fight, and they knew how to.
They just didn't give a shit.
Like, they don't care.
They got high as fuck, and then they went out and started, shooting Americans.
But I mean, all coming off of the military subject of the woke culture, we're going to go into how it has impacted like my civilian life in general.
Yeah.
All right. Like in my civilian job that I currently am in, when I got the job after my last deployment, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Didn't have any problem with it at all. But over time, and as this, like through 2020, 2021, when everything got volatile, I'll just leave it at volatile. Mm-hmm. When everything got volatile, the entire company changed. And in fact, my boss is leaving the company. His last day's Wednesday because of how everything has gotten. Because now he feels like he has to walk on eggshells because someone higher than him has a different opinion of how things should either be done or how he should operate the warehouse or how he should manage his building or his employees.
Yeah.
And they think that their opinion matters because they're higher than him, but they've never even been in his shoes because they're half his age. They're like my age, and they have a piece of paper that's out here saying that, hey, I know more than you. Now, that man's been doing the job for 35 years. You do not know any more. You will never probably know half as much as he does.
Yeah.
But you're driving this knowledge base away from like corporate America because that's where a lot of these, like every day when I turn on my computer, there's some woke message on the computer.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't avoid it anymore.
No, it's so in your face, and you have no choice but to accept it because they use their First Amendment deal. But God forbid if we're going to say a 2A advocate got an Instagram and started giving 2A advice, and I'm going to use Colin Noir for instance.
Oh, that's a fantastic. Yeah.
I mean, the man is a lawyer.
Yeah.
He's a 2A advocate, And
He's a self-made dude, and
Yeah.
he's a minority. Like you think everybody would be praising this dude because he's made so much of his life.
Yeah, you think, but no, they're to this day, he still gets blocked on his Instagram, his YouTube,
Shadow
his
banned.
Twitter, shadow banned because because they know they can't come out and intentionally ban him because he isn't breaking their guidelines that they state.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not gonna promote him. They're not gonna promote his videos because of views, because of viewage. They're not gonna allow his followers to see him post things because it just doesn't. It turns off their notifications for them.
Yeah.
And when you have organizations, and I'm not even going to say governmental organizations, private organizations doing this, and they're controlling, and I'm going to use the leftist term that they use, the social media portion of how the world is today. That is the new public square. That is where First Amendment rights should be authorized if you're an American company. Should be allowed. But because they're holding on to their private entities, they hold the right to cancel.
They hold
ban.
the right to it, like they hold them to a very different standard.
Mm-hmm. So when you have one side that's being 100% promoted and getting views, and you're giving the other side shadow banning, less viewage, and even blatant all-out banishment, you're kind of...
It's super hypocritical for the side that says that they're very inclusive.
Very inclusive.
Everyone's welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome until you don't. You're not.
Until you're not welcome anymore.
Yeah. Until you don't conform.
If you don't conform, you don't toe. If you don't toe our line, then you're done.
Yeah.
And you can see that in, like, for instance, what is that? Fallon. What's that guy's name?
Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah, Jimmy Fallon. His late night show. All right. When he started talking bad about party lines, because he's a staunch Democrat, but he started pointing out that some things just weren't 2 and 2 is not equaling 4.
Yeah.
They literally put a stop to his show for like 2 weeks. Like there was like a 2-week break that there was no late night show. And then when he came back, he literally didn't say anything else about it.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Because
like when you get a private company,
I'm all about private companies doing what they need to do
when
to
you
make
when
business.
you let the government influence how a private company conducts business, we'll put it that way. Like when government has that, they have that ability to influence
and they have the ability.
company.
Well, I think we have a problem. A lot of the problem that we have is we have politicians in power that want to stay in power, so they're giving.
They'll do anything.
Their money,
that's normal human nature. If you give somebody power that does not have the right intentions, they will do everything possible to stay in that power.
Well, for instance, Germany, 1930s, 1940s Germany.
Yeah.
Like, they did the same thing. They started canceling the voices they didn't want to hear.
And they put their propaganda out.
And they just put their propaganda machine to work. And so you have a very, very small portion of what we're going to call alt-right, because that's how they view them, is alt-rightists that were ultra-nationalists. You have probably 10% of those, and the rest of them are just German people that were listening to what they were being told.
And they were influenced by, I mean, like if you look at history, Germany, 1930s, 1940s, Germany had I think they had the best propaganda machine in all of human history.
I mean,
they were able to influence the entire country. We'll say about 90% of the country, and the other 10% just they didn't say it. They didn't say anything against it, or they left. But they influenced Germany, Austria, parts of Czechoslovakia, parts of Poland, parts of Belgium, France. I mean, their propaganda and the way that they were able to run their government and that whole organization, that they had SS battalions, foreign SS battalions join. I mean, you had the Estonian SS, you had Norwegian SS. I mean, you had all these SS.
You even had a Polish SS, by the way.
Ukrainian SS. which Ukrainian SS ran about 80% of the concentration camps, but that's we're not gonna talk about that. But they had the ability to influence all these countries that were around them, and some of them that weren't direct borders, to send 50 to 60% of their fighting age males to join the SS or the German army, Luftwaffe, their naval forces, and fight the war pretty much until the end. There was a French SS division that fought till the end at the Battle of Berlin in 1945, because they were able to be influenced that deeply to their core that they stayed with the German army. But the German,
all it was a brainwashing gig. You were literally putting out one side, the side that you needed.
But the Russians did the same thing.
Yeah, well, everyone has done the same thing. Hell, we've done the same thing. So it's not. I mean, the propaganda machines are always there. But the thing is, when things what really got me is when things just stopped making sense.
Yeah.
In today's propaganda machine, if that makes sense. When 2 + 2 was not equaling 4, even though it should equal 4, but they're telling me it equals
5.
Yeah, 5. We'll just say 5. Then that's a problem, because now that's not truth. That's a lie. But because it's their truth,
shielded as a truth.
Yeah, but when they consider it their truth, and they want you to consider it truth, then that makes truth relative. Which, if truth is relative, then there is no truth.
Yeah.
So then you have the death of truth.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you have the death of truth, then there is nothing true in their idealism. So anything can be a fact.
Mm-hmm.
And that's literally how they're teaching kids in college to be.
Yeah.
Like
they're institutionalizing kids at elementary school level.
Yes.
Like when you have middle schools, high schools, colleges, like national institutions, whether they're public or private, which I will always say private school is better than public school, but
anything that's not funded by the government is better.
Bingo. But you have private schools and public schools and public universities, and universities, whether they're public or private, basically banning certain books on their campus or banning them in their library, or not allowing kids to read them. Then that's starting to kind of push a little bit further to trying to push their narrative. Germany did, we keep referencing Nazi Germany, but Nazi Germany did the same thing.
Burning of books. They loved it.
Books.
They loved it.
Basically, getting rid of certain professors, certain educational institutions to try to push their narrative. Because if they can control that, then they can control the entire.
Well, I'll go even one better. We'll come off of Nazi Germany, and I'll even go one better. Let's look at North Korea. If you went and talked to a North Korean right now to this day, they think that you as an American to this day have murdered millions and millions of people. Yourself. Because that's their political propaganda machine that they institutionalized in the 50s. Literally paints that the leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, is God.
Yeah.
And that everything you do is for the Great One.
Yeah.
And the great leader is your God. And everything that you do is for him. How do you think people still... How do you think he has...
during World War II.
Yep. How do you think he has people, thousands of man army, standing with him still to this day, after 70 years of complete and utter starvation, political killings?
Yep.
I mean,
people just disappear.
You name the atrocity that has happened in North Korea. Radiation poisoning. Because they were doing radiation experiments, doing nuclear tests on their own people.
Yeah.
You want to know it. Yeah. If you want to know everything that you could possibly do bad, look at North Korea and how they've done. It's just...
Because there was a show on Netflix. I think it was like, How to Be a Dictator or something like that. I remember watching it because it just seemed interesting. But they basically took like some of the big name dictators throughout the past.
Pol
Basically,
Pot, Stalin, Hitler,
Gaddafi,
Gaddafi.
Saddam, and basically like it showed how they rose to power, what they did, and it all falls like it pretty much all is in line with changing what truth is, like changing the meaning of truth.
Yep.
To where the only truth that is true is what comes from the government. Banning books, basically turning the people against, like taking the minority and turning them against the majority and making the majority the bad people. So it basically takes the majority, pushes them to the minority side, and it just basically flips the table. And I feel like that's what's kind of going on here in America now, where the minority is trying so hard to sway the majority to their way of thinking.
Well, and the thing is, it's no longer going to be a majority. Like right now, we're kind of split 50-50. Like if you look at voting and everything, you're kind of
I don't trust voting polls, but
I'm not going to. Well, I'll just say that there is a vast majority in this country that do not believe in the woke culture. But the thing is the woke culture has seeped so far into our infrastructure, our schools, our houses. I mean, kids. The news. Yeah, like, well, it's seeped so bad into every little crevice in American life that the kids today, if they're not raised, I'm not going to say right, but what I will say is in truth, they're not raised in the truth of our history and in the truth of who we are as an American people. Then when they come out, all they've heard is the truth of one side.
Yeah.
The side that has the power. So then there is no longer going to be a majority because all of us will have either been dead or old and have no real power anyway.
And there's no dialogue. Like there's no. Like I found that's like a thing with the super like far left, far right. There is no like open dialogue. There's no like having a civil discussion or open discussion about like, hey, you feel this way, I feel this way. Like let's talk about why you feel this way and why I feel this way.
And I'll give one example of how that has really gotten bad. If you have a problem going to a family event, let's say Thanksgiving this past week, because you disagreed with somebody at Thanksgiving, and you always do, and you can't have a conversation with that person because of how you feel or how they make you feel, you're probably the problem.
Yeah. Because
you can no longer listen to a side that is not yours, have an objective mind, take away what is good, what is bad. You don't have to argue. Like you don't have to agree with them either. I'm not saying agree with everything that everyone is saying. I'm not saying that at all. But agree to disagree and enjoy your time with your family. If you can no longer do that, you're the problem.
Yeah.
Because that portion of how you are and how toxic that is to a family, you're in essence destroying your family because of how
your inability to be rational.
Exactly. How your inability for rationalization is.
Which I mean, I personally don't have a problem with. I don't have that problem in my family, but
I don't either. Like most of my family believes the way I do, or somewhat close to what I do, to where we don't have serious disagreements. Yeah. But I do have other friends, especially a guy I work with. He didn't even go home for his Thanksgiving because he had a complete and total clash, fist fight with his family member last year, so he didn't go this year because neither one of them had the rational ability to have a conversation. And
I mean, there's a time. Like I would say that there's a time and place for it.
Yeah, there is.
Like those discussions.
If you really want to have a drag down, knockout discussion to hit every hard subject there is, don't do it at a family get together.
Yeah.
Do it on your own time. Do it on
Yeah.
Facebook. Y'all are keyboard warriors anyway.
Anyway.
Everyone's a keyboard warrior in today's world. They love it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've had my fair share of discussions
I've had my
on
time
Facebook.
of being a keyboard warrior.
Yeah, I had my time
But
on
the thing
Facebook.
is, I'll say the same stuff in person.
Yeah,
I don't have to hide behind a screen.
No, my views and my way of thinking, I'll tell you straight up, it's just how I am. I mean, it's my opinion. I mean, you don't have to agree with my opinion. And I'm 100%. If you have your own opinion, fine, have your own opinion. But at the same time, when you want to shut somebody up because you don't like what's coming out of their mouth, and even though what they're saying is not harmful to you, like they're not threatening you or anything, but you're trying to shut them up on every avenue possible, that's called cancel culture. And you're the problem.
That's like people who, because we'll say, give a super hypothetical, like say somebody listens to this podcast or watches this on YouTube, and they're not of our same political, political, moral, and ethic belief, and they feel attacked. We'll put it that way. They feel attacked by it. And they'll, people can say like, oh, that, what you say is oppressive. Show me where it's oppressive. Like, show me, like,
I didn't tell you to click on my link, and I didn't tell you to keep it open.
Yeah.
Just saying, like, if you want to subscribe, comment, absolutely. Feel free to do so. Even if you disagree with me, you are free to comment. I want to hear your ideas. And I want to hear your opinions on what you think of what I have said. Yeah. I would absolutely love to see it because I'm not so close-minded.
That's a great thing. We can have that conversation. Yeah. I'm not going to get emotional about it.
No.
You're not going to get emotional about it.
Well, and that's the thing. I come at everything with at least a form of logic, and my mother hates it because she's more. My mother
more emotional.
My mother is an emotional. She is very political and very emotional. So whenever I go over to her house.
I love playing devil's advocate, by the way.
That's me.
Both sides.
That's me.
It's fun to do.
Then she hates me because I play devil's advocate. She's like, I know you don't believe that way. Stop being that way. I'm like, I'm just saying that's what someone's going to say. So you better have some type of fact to back it up, to back up what you're saying. I'm just making you a better person.
Yeah.
I'm just making you either a better debater or a better
listener.
Listener.
But that's the thing, like the people who say they're oppressed, like I'm oppressed because you feel this way. Like these are the same people who don't know what oppression is.
They've never seen it.
Like
America has not been oppressed for
what oppression? Like,
I'll say the last bit of oppression America really had was the 1960s and segregation. That was the last bit of serious oppression that America has ever seen. Other than that, everyone has had freedom. Like, you have had the freedom to do whatever the heck you've wanted to do. Yeah. Now, granted, the LGBTQ community, like the marriage aspect that came in like 2008, 2009, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care what you do. It's just me. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, like,
I'm a straight guy. I don't care.
Yeah.
Right? I know what I like, and if you like what you like, then that's what you like.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to stop you, and I'm not going to fault you. But at the same time, don't shove it down my throat.
Yeah.
And make me think that I have to be that way, because I'm not. It's just not going to happen. Like, I don't have a problem with that aspect of, how people are. Do I believe in it? Do I agree with it? That's not my lifestyle I want to live, so I'm not going to live it. But if you want to live it, good on you. Live it.
I mean, that's like the same thing.
American.
Like, same thing with transgender. Like, I personally, like, if you want to go out there and you want to be transgender, you're dead set on it. Like, that's great, but don't push it on my kids.
Absolutely not.
Like,
you shouldn't be making that decision before you're an adult. I mean, I can't even buy a pack of cigarettes before I'm 21 in today's world. If I was 18 in today's world, I'd be kind of pissed because when I was 18, I had the ability to go buy cigarettes.
Yeah, squeaked in, right there.
But, I mean, we can't go buy cigarettes, but you can change a kid's gender before he even knows what gender really is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's That's not
Like
right.
kids can't vote. They can't they can't drink.
For a
They can't
reason.
smoke. They can't anything like that because they don't. Their mind isn't developed enough to be able to make and formulate like
Rational
decisions.
decisions.
Yeah,
Rational
but you're gonna be like,
decisions
what,
about their own
you
life.
can go on hormone blockers, or you can have this life altering surgery that in 10, 15 years you might totally regret. And in most circumstances, it's irreversible.
Oh,
Like, once you
most all
fuck
of
your
it.
body up at that point, like you can't come
Well,
back from that.
I went to school with a kid, and I'm not going to name his name, but I went to school with a kid, and he came out to be transgender when he was 19. All right. He went through the process to change from a male to a female. All right. About a year and a half ago, he figured he'd made a very, very grave mistake because now he wanted to be a male again. So
And
he
you can't
had
come back. Like you made that.
no. I mean everything that he lost, like a lot of the natural hormones we create as men that women cannot create. Those natural hormones that we create were so blocked and suppressed that they never came back.
Yeah.
So he's kind of like stuck in the middle, in between. Physically, he still pretty much looks like a male, minus a little extra skin.
Yeah.
But emotionally, he kind of more feels like a woman. So he's kind of stuck in the middle because he's so screwed up that he doesn't know. Like it has screwed the hormone blockers and everything that he was on has screwed his mental headspace up so bad that he actually became suicidal. And
that's a super common thing with the LGBTQ community is like they have increased rates of anxiety, depression, suicide. I think it's a two-part thing. Number one, coming from like the lack of acceptance, which I don't know if you can really say that today because it's widely
accepted today. But I mean, I get it when we were growing up. It was
and then people who have transitioned have come to the realization, however long after, I made a mistake, and they can't go back, so they fall into very deep bouts of depression and suicidal tendencies and thoughts, and attempts. And sometimes they succeed in that, and
I mean, you shouldn't be pushing that on a kid. Is all we're saying.
Yeah.
If you're an adult and you are of age and you want to make that choice, that is your prerogative.
Go for it. Yeah.
Go for it. I don't care. But do not push it on my children. Do not push it on other people's children who just want to be left alone and let their kids make their own decisions whenever they become of age.
Or having parents push it on their kids themselves.
Oh, yes. Just literally completely brainwashing your child into thinking there's something that they're not.
Yeah.
Or something that they
don't
want to be.
Honestly. Say we'll take a 7-year-old. Like a 7-year-old kind of knows the difference between gender. Like he obviously knows like the difference between a male and a female, but he doesn't have the mental aptitude to be like, today I want to be a female, and then that's going to dictate the rest. The next 70 to 80 years of his life.
And they don't know what it takes.
Allow that.
Being a female and being a male are two completely different things.
Yeah,
they just are. They both have their strengths and they both have their weaknesses. And
like one gender is not better than the other.
We're in a dichotomy. All right, we offset each other. That's just how biology created us to be, is to offset each other. And whenever you're a kid and you don't really know what a female is, or you don't really know what a male is, but you just think that because your friend is either pretty or they're stronger or whatever, and you want to be that, that's all a kid is going to see is how they foresee. They don't understand that what comes with being an adult age male or an adult age female. And especially
they're totally opposite. I mean, it's a total opposite.
When I talk to a lot of females and women who are big into the women's right movement back in the earlier days before today's more I'm not going to say feminist movement came out, but the more modern feminist movement came out.
Mm-hmm.
And they completely did not like the fact, like, of transgender men being able to compete in women's sports.
That's like the death of feminism. Like,
yeah.
Like, and the fact that, like, you know, the modern feminist movement supports men transitioning into females and competing in female, you know, only sports, or like, you know, like female swimming, or, you know, female basketball and all this stuff. And they're setting, you know,
like if LeBron James said tomorrow that he was transitioning to a woman, do you really want him in the WNBA?
No, because he would dominate.
Do you really?
Any team he went up against.
I mean, he'd be his own team at that point.
Yeah.
Just because it's LeBron James.
Like, you could have a dude. So that's like, I can't remember who said it. I want to say it was either Jordan Peterson or Andrew Tate, but they were talking with Pierce Morgan. I want to say it was Jordan Peterson. But he made a good example. Would you want, like, Floyd Mayweather, like, you know, a world class boxer, to transition and become a female and then go into women's boxing?
Like, I don't know. Would he be a great thing.
He would literally kill opponents.
He would crush someone's skull.
Yeah.
With one or maybe two punches.
Yeah.
I'd give him one punch. It's Floyd Mayweather, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
Guys,
it's like the same thing like Conor McGregor. Like, if Conor McGregor decided to transition and go into, you know, female MMA, like, he would absolutely dominate. You know, more than he already does, but he would dominate in a female class, you know, MMA match.
Well, that's because we in today's world we do not want to accept the fact that men and women are very different.
Yeah.
It's not that either one of them is better. It's the fact that they're different. They are two different people. They're two different biological beings. Like, we're just human, but we're different. Because
and you need both.
You need both.
Like, to sustain life and to sustain society, you need
both. That's why biology is the way it is. Because without a female, there will not be humankind.
Yeah.
There would never be humankind. Just like without a male, there would never be humankind.
Yeah, and then, you know, you have
like
artificial insemination. Yeah, but where do you get that insemination part from?
Yeah, where
are you going to get the DNA?
Where does the insemination part come from?
Yeah,
it comes from somewhere, and you can't make artificial insemination.
I mean, you got to test tube
DNA
from some lab, but that's at that point when you start, like, test tube babies where it's not coming from human DNA, or it's coming from some, like,
don't ask me how this
it's not human
turn out. Yeah,
like, it's a fucking science experiment.
Yeah, and when it turns out something very, very screwed up, which it will, because you can't reproduce a human. It's never been done before. We're talking about cloning and artificial.
Star Wars.
Yeah, right? We're not. I'm sorry, this isn't the sci-fi universe. It is a great. I'm a Star Wars geek, but at the same time, I know it's not real. It's not gonna. Like, I'm not gonna just whip out a lightsaber one day and be like, "Huh, this is what I'm going to. This is how I'm going to fight my war now."
Yeah,
it's not gonna. Now, I'm not saying technology won't make a lightsaber, but I'm probably gonna go ahead and say that technology is probably not gonna be able to develop a legitimate human from
nothing. Yeah.
If science ever does that, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you. Then, if it ever does that, then there's no point of any of us being here, because there's just going to be like 10 scientists making people that they want to make.
Yeah.
And that's just how it's going to be. But it's never going to happen. There's going to be so many screw up. Like, the DNA, it'd never work out. But anywho, on the entire tangent of
which is
how,
like fucking
yeah, man, we're chasing squirrels right now, because every aspect of the culture leads to each and every topic that no one likes to talk about.
Yeah.
And granted, we're not a big podcast. We don't even have over 100 viewers yet. But at the same time, I'm never going to be afraid to speak my opinion.
Yeah.
Because it's just me. It's my opinion. You don't have to believe. I'm not telling you to believe everything I say, and I'm not coming at you from, hey, I got this degree, so it tells me I know what I'm talking about. I have no degree.
Yeah, I got no degree, so
I have a diploma.
I'm just basing this all of my own human experience.
This is all human experience that I have lived in my past 26 years of my life.
Yeah.
25, 26 years. I'm going on 26, so I'm more closer to 30.
Yeah. Crossing that threshold, man.
God. Oh, in the Army world, I'm already 50, so.
Yeah, 25 going on 65.
Yeah. Army world, I'm already an old man, so. But anywho, when it comes to other aspects of woke culture, such as when it comes to the serious cancellation of people from one side that have a platform, and you take the platform away from them to promote one platform above them because of a certain political idea that either the company or the government holds at the time, that is a problem.
Yeah.
Because I could go out here on the street in downtown, wherever I'm at, and do what they did back in the old days, get a box, stand on top of it, and tell people my opinion. I could do that. Everyone's going to think I'm crazy. Every soul that walks past me is going to think I'm crazy because no one's going to sit there and listen. So that freedom of speech that was enabled when we were first founded, that's how that was. The thing is today is these podcasts,
getting on social media,
that is now someone standing on the side of the street in downtown, wherever they're at, telling people how they feel. That is exactly what it is. And whenever you take that away and you just promote the side that will give you the most power, or you think is the most, how do I put this politically? Give you the most fanatical support to further your political ideas or your financial pocketbook. You're the problem. You're the problem. Uno. And I'm not pointing at anyone in particular, but that's my 2 cents. That's all I'm going to say. That's my opinion. And I mean, like everyone says, opinions are like buttholes. Everyone's got one. Well, this one's mine. So if you agree with it, keep listening, because there's probably way more of this that's going to happen.
Oh yeah,
coming down the line. But I mean, we could probably sit here for 2.5
hour,
3 hours, a week, to probably forever, going into every depth and every facet of how we've gotten to where we are as a country, which would take a lot of time and a lot of years and a lot of hours. So we're not going to do that. We're going to try to hop off of here and let y'all go.
I think we're getting close to wrapping this one up.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, we could run rabbit trails all night, and we could hit a bunch more key points if we wanted. But the main key points, I mean, they've pretty much been said, because, I mean, you got a little history of how they came up. You got how they used their main victim mentality.
Yeah.
To gain their following base. And then they have weaponized it against people who were unsuspecting, that are just normal people.
Speaking of weapons, I think this is a good time to tease what I think next week's topic's going to be about. It's going to be guns, a hot button issue, gun control.
Cool.
and why gun control isn't, shouldn't really
Gun
be a thing.
control
or isn't
is
really a thing.
bad.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm going to get canceled for that one. That's okay.
Yeah. The
That's
only gun
okay.
control I like
Cancel.
is, maintaining a positive control on the firearm. But
Yeah,
we'll get into that whole topic next week.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's going to be a fun topic, just simply because there's so much political clickbait with the word gun control that it might blow up. So I'm really hoping we do not end up on front page news because of our opinions.
If we do end up on front page news, I don't care.
Please end us up on front page news, because you're just going to further my channel. Appreciate it.
Yeah, really. It's not going to hurt me. There's no such thing as bad publicity. But with that being said, we're gonna sign off here. Again, we appreciate everybody listening, watching. If you enjoyed what you saw and what you heard, or vice versa, whatever platform you're listening on or watching, go ahead and hit that like, subscribe, and if it's on YouTube, go ahead and hit that bell. We're going to be putting out a lot more videos, some podcast videos. I think from here on out, depending on how this one does, I think we'll do more of these.
We'll do more, and we'll try to
in the same room.
Yeah, we'll try to sit in the same room on this next one, just simply because we didn't know how this video thing was going to work out. So
yeah,
this is more kind of thrown together.
We'll do some gear reviews if people want to see it. Some gun reviews, some shooter videos,
gun reviews. We can do some tactics.
Yeah, we're actually partnering up with an up and coming training company, which actually happens to be my father's company, Flying Fowl Farm Training. They're doing introduction to pistol classes, concealed carry. Once it starts getting off day, we'll do some carbine classes, some more tactical shooting stuff. Overall, just all around preparedness. I'm going to put the link to the email and to the Facebook page and the description, and on YouTube and on Spotify and Apple. And we're going to be out there teaching classes too. So we're partnered up with them now. So every podcast will be plugging them. And if y'all have any questions about that, along with the podcast, feel free to hit us up in the comments, email, everything like that. We also have a Twitter page, twitter.com/@outlaw or Outlaws Talk. I'll also put that in the description as well. But you got anything else, Dalton?
Nah, man, I think we've hit pretty much everything we needed to hit today.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I appreciate everyone that's listening, though. I mean, like I said, we're up and coming, and we're just normal guys out here, just saying how we feel and how we're seeing things go on in our little, 2 inches of crack that we get to look out into the world in. So we're just saying how it is from our perspective. So, but I appreciate you guys tuning in and listening. Hope y'all have a wonderful rest of your week. Catch us back probably next week about the same time.
Yep. All right. Take it easy, everybody.
See y'all.